Good evening. Welcome to the School Building Committee meeting for September 16, 2014 for the Pembroke School Project. Okay, so the first thing is approval of the minutes from August 19th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Was there a motion?
I moved.
He moved it, yes, there was.
Okay, sorry. Okay, any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I abstained because I was not there. Okay, and next are the monthly invoices. We already signed the invoices for municipal and for DRA earlier this month. So what we have left is we have Green Seal, UTS of Massachusetts, actually two for Green Seal. And so the total amount of invoices for this month, $25,860.85. $25,860.85.
That's
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion over the invoices? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved.
Do you want them to sign it first? Maybe we can come back
Right,
this
Ben?
way.
I have a pencil.
I just need to- Okay.
Need a pen?
Correspondence, old business. Okay. Next, we'll turn it over to DRA, I guess, to give us or municipal for an update on the construction progress in our schedule.
I can
Pembroke?
cover the regular report that we have here real quick, and then Kyle can get into the septic with a little bit of background and so forth, and we'll go from there.
No.
Everybody should have one. I think Chuck passed out the reports. There's a lengthy review of the previous month's activities. Needless to say, there's an awful lot going on in and around the building. The gas line installation is all complete into the building. We now have gas right to the meter. Electric company is installing the permanent service. Regrading, reshaping of the North Fields is continuing. We'll touch base again a little bit more on that. Septic will defer to Kyle for a little bit more of an explanation. Retaining walls, those block retaining walls, the earth-supported retaining walls around the building, those are substantially complete. Repaving of the trench at the driveway has been completed in time for a school to open. Concrete, suffice to say, the majority of the concrete is complete. There's a little bit of touch-up here and there, but concrete's just about complete. Steel, structural is history. There's some miscellaneous handrails, ladders, and so forth that obviously are ongoing as we speak. Masonry, again, there's a little bit more stone veneer to be completed. Other than that, the masonry is, again, substantially complete. The exterior, roof completed in areas B and C. The balance of the metal roofing is being finished up on the gym and cafeteria areas. Metal panels, the horizontals are completed around the building, and there's trim work that's ongoing. Caulking around the building is complete. Window installation is complete. Storefront and curtain wall installation continues, and it's completed in Area C. Glass is being installed in all the available openings, so that we would anticipate in the next couple of weeks the glass will all be in place, and we're pushing to get permanent closure on the building so that we have a better shot at security, although it's been pretty good. Gymnasium cowl wall is completed. There's the translucent panels around the building. The vegetated roof is scheduled for next month. The membrane's down, but the vegetated trays and so forth will be due next month. The finishes inside the building, I mean, all the finishes are moving right along. Drywall is completed in B and C, a little bit left in A. Painting is following the drywall. Metal casework is being installed in Area C. Wood casework, same thing. Wood doors have been delivered. Installation will be starting shortly on those. The floor prep, which is the moisture mitigation in Area C and B, is well along. They're doing work in A. Floor finishes have started in C, second and third floor. Wall tile in the bathrooms in Area C is completed, and they're moving into the B area. Interior wall framing, again, continues, but again, there's some left in A, pretty much completed. Drywall installation, again, finishing up in A. Painting began on the third and second floors. Floor prep, again, that's, again, the floor prep that is necessary, the shot blasting prior to the moisture mitigation. And then the acoustic ceiling, the grid is going in, acoustic ceiling tile has been delivered to the job. Mechanical and electrical, MEP rough work is ongoing. The electrician, I think I looked at the report yesterday, electrician had 32 electricians on the job, and we're running close to 100 tradesmen on the job. So there's a strong presence of tradespeople on the job. Bathroom finish work has started with tile completed. They'll start putting the fixtures up wherever the tile is advanced. Electrical connections began in all areas. Final rooftop units are set. There was one missing. That's now been installed. And the control system wiring is all in process. Technology wiring continues with all of the fire alarm and all of the other associated electrical installation. Boilers have been installed. They're being piped and connected to the distribution system. They're pushing those hard because they may be asking for permission to use them for temporary heat, which obviously is the best form of heat to use when you're doing finish operations in the building. Gray water system is there. It's been delivered, and they're working on getting the installation in place. Switchgear prep, sub-panel work continued throughout the building, and the generator has been installed. Dust control measures, including wheel washing stations. We have the atomizers, which are like the snowmaking equipment. Those are running aside the building to obviously capture any dust that might develop and bring it down. And they're watering the site on a regular basis, so and we still have, obviously, our monitoring consultant on the site. Next month's anticipated activities, again, continue filling with clean fill, and I would hope within the next month we can finish all the fill activities on the site. That would be a commendable goal to have, because we're trying to get some of those areas stabilized with grass. Continue with the access road and driveway layout. Continue the North Fields work. Complete the septic system. Complete the well for North Fields. Actually, they were running one more test today on the wells themselves. They had actually gone through all of the wells. The water's been certified as acceptable, but there was a couple other tests that they hadn't done that they wanted done, so they were finishing those today.
Are there 2 wells?
I'm sorry?
How many wells?
One.
Just one?
No, we had so much volume coming out of one well, we thought they tapped into Peter's municipal system, there was so much water coming out
Oh,
of it.
really?
But there was over 300 and some odd gallons a minute coming out of the well, so one was more than adequate.
Okay.
So there'll be a credit for the well we obviously don't need. Exterior, we more or less covered the fact that the windows are in place, storefronts, curtain walls. It'd be nice to have them all done, again, like I said, and completed within the next month with all of the attended doors and hardware. All roofing, again, like I said, is anticipated to be completed with the exception of a little bit of trim, and the metal panels and soffit panels should be all done. Interior finishes, again, moving with the painting, drywall, ceiling installations, moving the inside toward completion, and mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, just continue all of those systems transitioning from the roughing to the finished product, including all of the devices necessary. They're going to be installing a temporary transformer, the local power company. The permanent transformer was ordered. It won't be installed in place. They're going to give us a temporary transformer. We need the transformer because the elevator installer needs power coming off the permanent service. So they'll have that in place so it doesn't delay the elevator installation. Project schedule, it is running, I think everybody is aware, we've been running ahead of schedule on the building and the substantial completion date. It continues to run ahead of schedule. Right now, the substantial completion date for the new building is the mid-July. We're running ahead of that, and we always had your bet. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, but with regard to the building, it's running substantially ahead of schedule. Project budget.
When do they expect the completion date then?
Right now, their schedule still shows us the middle of July. Their verbal indication is that we are at least a month ahead of schedule, and probably further ahead than that. Our expectation, our goal would be that they would finish substantial completion with a punch list in the late spring, which would give us a chance to get more or less finish up the punch list before we take FF&E. There's always that blurry area. You know, you're working on trying to get to substantial completion. Then by necessity, you're bringing in FF&E equipment, and you get someone monitoring who's nicking a wall, who is doing this. It'd be wonderful to think that we could get the substantial part of the punch list completed before we start bringing in FF&E. And that's the goal right now, and that's the advantage we have in having them get done early and finish the punch list, to eliminate that blurriness that occurs when we start intermingling owner operations with the contractor's operation to finish the punch list. So, again, that's the expectations, that's the course we're on, and we have a very good chance of getting there. Project budget, I'll just go through the budget report right behind here, which will give you a little bit more meat to what's here. Change order report, the same thing applies. Cash flow projections, again, they're attached. No safety issues, construction, QA, QC. There's nothing to talk about other than to say, as things come up, as they are on every job, there's a list made of things that have to be addressed. That's obviously distributed to the contractor and the subcontractors, monitored by the architect and our field people. And again, as those things are taken care of, they're knocked off. The idea is to try and get rid of these items before they become punch list items. Take care of them as you go, and it minimizes, obviously, your punch list as you move along. Community issues, town has finalized the agreement, the access drive and the abutter on Elm Street. I think there was one open issue on the type of wooden material for the deck.
Yesterday, we're gonna get them down to tomorrow.
Yep, so that'll be resolved very shortly. MBWBEs, again, the contractor is in compliance and the architect is in compliance with the requirement to engage M&WBEs. Monthly budget report, again, if you follow it down, if you look at the revised PFA budget, the second column, you look at the committed amount, and then the uncommitted amount on the column next to that. The committed amounts all the way down show the contracts, whether the money has been expended or not. Those are commitments that are made. Follow it down to, obviously, the bottom line. It shows the construction contingency that we had originally. Shows the ODA contingency down below that. And again, like I said, you get down to the total budget. If you look at the construction contingency remaining, the 887, that's remaining contingency with the change orders that have been executed. When you flip over to page 7, you'll see that coincides with the 887 at the very bottom. There's the change orders, there's the contract, there's your $887,000 balance. And if you turn over to page 8, the third last line from the bottom shows the 887. And then you have another 110,000, which again, like I said, is the sum of the 49, where it says totals 49,600 and 60,661. Those are items that are either on the table or items that have been included where there's no numbers, where it says estimated cost. There's been just simply a budget as to what's in there. The item that says pending approvals, those are items that have been submitted. When you combine the two, that's the 110,261. You subtract that from the 887. Chances are the 110 is not going to be the end number that we're going to arrive at. It's going to go up and down depending on what the estimated costs are and so forth, and whether they're accepted or not. You take that, and it leaves us with 777, call it close to $800,000 in contingency. At this point, with everything that we know about to this date, excluding the septic system and so forth, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's a schedule behind here, and again, like I said, this is again based on what we just discussed. Their schedule is July 15th. It just is a master schedule. We have a schedule that they submit every month. It's probably an inch thick, which is a computerized schedule, which we kind of review every month. And again, like I said, there's a lot more detail than that little bar graph, but it's a simplified version as to where we are. So I would say that, with the exception of the little complication on the septic system, which we are working diligently on to get resolved, the job is ahead of schedule, workmanship is good, things are being addressed as we go. And again, like I said, we're in good shape.
You comfortable with the 777 contingency from now to the end?
Yeah, I think we have enough to cover whatever happens at the septic. Yeah, and still leave enough to get to the end. Yeah, we feel pretty comfortable with that. We'll know a lot more once we get real numbers, because right now we just got down to the bottom today. Kyle explained we have the Board of Health coming with the engineer tomorrow to verify that we're down far enough. They were computing quantities, looking at the cost to obviously get rid of the material, because we've got to get whatever we've dug up, we got to get rid of on site. So we've got Kyle looking at that with the engineers. So we're working on a whole solution to the whole issue, so we can put that all to sleep once and for all.
What are you talking about?
We'll actually get to it on the
Yeah, we're gonna get,
agenda.
the next step is Kyle's gonna explain the issue on the septic system, where we've had to go deeper than originally anticipated.
How deep did you have to end up going?
He's gonna get into the whole.
Yeah, Kyle's gonna
he's
go
get
through this
into
whole
the
thing right
when
now,
we get
yeah,
there. So,
yeah.
I just have a question, so,
Yeah.
Have you guys met with, like, the new technology person? Are you guys, like, all on board, working with?
He's been coming to the meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been very attentive, he's come, he stayed for the bulk of the meetings, yeah, he's been
Wanders
very
around
good.
the building.
Yeah, yeah, he's been in the
Okay.
building, he's familiar with it.
So people have all been working together, and people are kind of happy in the direction that, wherever the direction's going with
As
the
far as I know,
technology?
yeah.
Everybody's
And I'm
good?
hoping if they're not happy, they
Okay.
would say something to
Okay.
somebody so we
Okay.
could correct
Just
it.
wanna
But
make
as
sure.
far as I know, I
There's
haven't heard
always
anything.
two parts to technology, Michelle. There's a part that's built into the building, and
Right.
then there's the equipment part.
Right, well,
so-
that's because what you're doing, all the electric and the wiring, I know some of it
Right,
probably
so
had
that
to
part's
be.
nailed
Yeah.
down, and
Right,
he's on
okay.
board with that.
Okay.
We're still working with him on the equipment part, as
Yeah.
to what
That's
kind
fine.
of computers and routers and, you know, the loose things to
Yeah.
buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And how
everybody's good
many
then?
and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
and I think
Where
we've,
we're
we've
going.
mentioned that, again, like I said, we're at the stage where we're doing all the infrastructure part of it.
Yeah.
Occasionally on these projects, a new technology person will come in and will request outlets in another location.
Yeah.
We would hope that that would come forward to the committee and to Kyle, so if that's necessary, we can build it into a change order.
Have you
But right now,
mentioned
we
that to
haven't.
him?
Yeah, and right now, we haven't heard anything to the adverse.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you just, what was that?
You can hear a little bit about.
Well, that's okay, the sooner the better, yeah.
Because we are working
Yeah.
with Mike DeBerry and Courtney.
Yeah.
And Wes.
Yeah.
Margaret and myself.
Yeah.
Technology people, so.
Not a problem.
It's
It is-
kind of tricky when a year ago, right, we're talking about infrastructure stuff and we're doing that not knowing exactly what.
Yeah,
Right.
And when we ask, people say, oh, next year when we get there because, you know, we wanna get the most current stuff.
yeah,
You know, so it is, I have found the process a little tricky.
yeah, yeah.
But we're all working together on it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we're trying.
The important thing now is not the equipment you're gonna finally purchase, it's really where it's gonna go.
Where it's
So if you
gonna
need
go,
any
yeah.
wiring or any power or
Right.
anything else,
Yeah,
we
we
can
don't
build it
think
in.
that's gonna be a problem,
Yeah,
Pat.
that's
It's
what,
more like, are we using interactive whiteboards or
Right.
Right.
smart boards?
Yeah.
And apparently those are different sizes.
that's right,
So
yeah, yeah,
it requires, so there are no final decisions on
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but we're working on,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, again, like I said,
possibilities might
it's just a matter, it's a lot cheaper.
Yes.
If we know we need something now,
Now.
it's a lot cheaper to
Right.
get it done now.
Right.
Than once the building is completed, and we get finished product in place, you know, it's,
Yeah.
so I always
I don't think
encourage.
there's any issue with wiring
Yeah.
or placement, there's
Well, that's
a data
good.
wall. I just think it's, it might, some sizing might
Yeah.
be,
Yeah,
and
And
whether
whatever-
it's FF&E
We talked about it
or
already, and
technology.
whatever, I talked to Wes about it, we talked to everybody about it, whatever the direction is that goes, we're covered. We're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think we're.
good,
It's
Okay,
just
there-
the
so if you
layout.
guys could just stay on top of that, make sure that, you know,
Yeah.
if
It's just the
anything
layout
comes up,
Yeah.
in the
let us know
building.
as soon as possible.
The
Okay.
backbones, the power for it, it's all there regardless which way they go.
Is there a schedule of a drop dead date for this? Because typically when you have these types of things, you give them a drop dead date where they have to make up their mind
Yes.
to be able to get it in. Has that all been
Coordinated.
coordinated?
Okay.
yeah, all that, as Carol just said, all of that design work is ongoing right now. Yeah.
It's really to meet the schedule that Pat talked about before. We're gonna be ready at the end of next month.
Okay.
Okay. Carl, do you have anything to add about the schedule, construction schedule, what's been going on? Do you have anything to add there?
No, obviously, just to reinforce that, they are well ahead of schedule, and it's somewhat tied in what we were just talking about in terms of equipment and also furniture. Those are things that we're working with you on to purchase and procure and install. Just so that there are no surprises later, the building may in fact be done early, and people will look at it longingly, like, can't we move in? But the furniture and equipment is not on that same
Right.
aggressive schedule, so yes, you could move in, but you'd have no place to sit and no
I think
computer
we're
to
all
turn
good.
on.
As long as we
So
can get it
that's
for
not
September
coming
15,
early.
we're all good.
Yeah.
So, just so everyone
We're all good for
understands that.
September 15, so
Good.
we're
Are
good.
you comfortable with the
So-
speed they're working?
Well, it's a challenge for us to keep up with the quality, but as Pat said, we have a good methodology of noting deficiencies, getting to them, to the contractor regularly. So, they can pick that up. And you know, there's a normal give and take with a contractor who wants to go fast, and sometimes things are put in out of sequence, and we make them undo it and do it right every now and then, so that's the way it goes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so you're gonna give us an update on the,
Yeah, maybe I'll use some boards to help explain. I want to block people's view, let me move it over here, Ken. you guys probably know better than I in terms of how septic systems are constructed and all, but Title V regulations, all that sort of thing. This is literally one of the construction drawings, and as part of that, we put in the test pit information that was done, years ago, prior in the design phase. And here's the existing school, right here. Here's the proposed new leaching field, right there. We had 4 test pits done in that general area, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they, our designer was out there literally with the Board of Health the day the test pits were done, identified the soils as you have to do, the so-called A, B, and C soil. You have to identify the C layer of soil, which is good material to start building the leaching field on. The 2 test pits that are in the closest proximity to, obviously right in the field area themselves, they show that good layer down 6 feet and 7 feet from finished grade. The others are a little bit north of the field. They actually show it shallower, like 3 and 4.5 feet. So there's probably good reason that there's some underlying topography that wasn't flat. We understand that. So the direction to the contractor was, and this is an enlargement of the field, and there are those 2 test pits. They started digging at this end of the field, and the photograph is probably the best, and maybe y'all can't see it, but they brought it down. Let me go to this drawing first.
Oh, remember one thing too, is the field is short.
Well, the shape of the field stayed the same,
Right,
but
they dig it on the bigger end rather than
Yeah.
just left there.
yeah. If you can see this detail here, this is a cross section. There are the pipes, the laterals, and the leaching field, and the required stone underneath them. So working at the top, this green line is the finished grade. That's roughly 104. The bottom of the pipes, and the pipes are pretty much level throughout the entire field. 102. The stone's at 100. Those test pits I pointed out, number 1 and 2, basically called for the contractor, to dig down to level 97. It literally tells him to dig down until he gets to the C layer everywhere. It doesn't say dig to 97. And just to point out, 97, the C layer may go up and down. We anticipated that, and the contractor somewhat anticipated that too by interpolating from those borings. What turns out is, in the area where they started digging, they didn't get to the C layer till 89. So that's another, 8 feet down below where we thought we had to dig. And it shows up in this photograph pretty well. Oops, this page right here. Maybe a little hard to see, but this is like 102, 104, 102, 97, 89. So, and that's the bottom where they finally got to good stuff. What they found really was there was some good stuff below this line, but mixed in were some layers of topsoil. And it looks like, area was filled previously, probably in the construction of the Pembroke School, that there's some organics down there that had to come out. And this is, you can see sort of the zigzag field. This is the zigzag end of the field. So we're standing up at the school, looking down at the field there. So at this end was the worst case, where they had to go the deepest. And as we sort of anticipated, it does rise up. And just today, they finished, excavating what they think is the full extent of the field. It has to be witnessed tomorrow morning by the Board of Health and by our civil engineer. But at this end, and you were there, Chuck, maybe you know better, it was only about 3 or 4 feet down, right?
It was
Or right at
actually
97?
sloped right up to where it wanted to be.
Right at 97 there.
So how far down have they dug?
They've dug an extra 8 feet there, so they're down about, if we start from here, what's that, 15 feet?
Could I just, so I really know nothing
Well,
about that, so
that's proposed finished grade. It was a little
what
higher.
does that 104 mean? Because that number
That's
means.
the finished grade, 104 feet above sea level.
Okay.
The grade of the ground.
So basically
So-
where you had your test pits, they were right. And then where it didn't, because the field went in the opposite direction of your number 3 and 4.
Dropped off, yeah.
Yes,
You
it
can't
went,
Dropped off.
it
that
went
you-
very deep.
That nobody
You can't
expected.
paint
Yeah.
test pits everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You try
Yeah.
to take a
Yeah,
representative sample, which we're done.
So,
Turns out it's all over the board.
there are two basic issues, or maybe three if you wanna look at it. Obviously, there's more work for the contractor,
Yeah.
which is more cost. There's more material that has to come out of the hole and go somewhere. And of course, like all the other material on the site, it's somewhat, I don't wanna say contaminated, but, impacted by arsenic. And so we wanna find a place for it on site, so we don't have to pay exorbitant costs to ship it off-site. And then you have to replace that material with good material, which is basically sand,
It's a Title V.
to fill up the hole. So there's a cost to, dig more, there's a cost to move it somewhere on site, and there's a cost to replace it with good material. And let me, I guess, just keep going. So the first challenge for us, and, the contractor, he's trying to place that material somewhere right away as soon as he digs it to minimize the handling of it. And remember that we've sort of worked out grades here. This is the revised grading plan where we've got the two Little League fields there, the open play area here, which is already slightly higher than this. And then we've got the mound here, which I told Margaret we need to come up with a good name for that. The students should have a contest. It's gonna be a mountain, which is already pretty high, but the material coming out of the hole, as I mentioned, some of it is good and some of it is more organic. Good meaning it could be used for fill. So, literally just today we started working on locating or regrading, the possibilities here. Can we raise this a little bit? Can we raise this a little bit? We have the future soccer field. Can we raise that a little bit? And with the quantities that we're talking about, and because it varies, it's hard for us to calculate. We're waiting for the surveyed topo from the engineers.
He took it today.
It's anywhere from, 2,400 yards to 4,000 yards of extra material that we have to find a home for. And just to give you an order of magnitude, if we were to fill this or raise this one more foot, loses about 1,000 yards. So to lose all the material here, we'd have to raise this about 3 or 4 feet. And of course, when we raise it, remember, the field shrinks a little bit because of the slope. If we were to spread it here, we might be able to get this a little bit higher, but we gotta remember, we're blending into, the property line, the sidewalk, the pavement. There's not much room for this to change.
And the topsoil has not been placed there yet?
No.
No,
They
not
just
as
have that
proposed.
orange fabric and
Okay.
just a little, and if there is a little bit of room for this future soccer field to come up, but the problem there is, we obviously have to wait till the school's demolished to put it there. And then we'd have to find a home for a stockpile.
You have a problem with
Wait.
where do you stock it in the meantime?
Because,
Yeah.
we're hoping to plant grass on everything,
Yeah.
at least all this, and we're not
about-
sure we could pile it here even higher in waiting to put it there. And we don't want to contaminate it by mixing it with stuff that has organics in it. So there's not much stockpile area here. It might end up, if we had to, maybe you end up taking this, but then you have to think, how do you get the
How do you
material
get it over
from
there?
here to
You
there?
can't travel across the
Across a
septic,
finished field or across a finished septic, you can't have heavy equipment going across that. Maybe they could find a way out of there. We're working on those issues.
Okay.
And so, there's a few variables in the air here.
Well, I suppose one of the positives is it turns out it's not the entire field, that at some point,
Right, yes. It came up and it's, not as bad as they first thought when they kept digging here to get down to good material.
How sure are we about the infill for the old school as we take that out? In other words, are we gonna have to bring soil in for that, or?
Well,
That
the
just
contractor
balances.
already owned that.
Contractor owns
Before
that,
we
yeah.
started,
No, I know that.
so
but
he was already counting
He's
on
bringing
that.
some in.
Okay.
Would this eliminate him bringing some in?
He still has to bring in good stuff to be the cap. Remember the
Right,
top,
right.
whatever,
Talking about
18
underneath.
inches,
Yeah.
has to be good stuff anyways from
Right.
off-site.
Just talking about under.
And there's not that much fill underneath that to bring it up to grade,
Correct.
the finished grade.
Because remember, it's slab on grade, so there's no big basements.
Yeah, there's
So
gonna
it's
be
shallow
some
foundation.
foundation holes to fill and,
It's not a lot of material.
yeah. The finished grade there is pretty close to the existing grade.
Yep.
But that's what we're saying, there might be some room to raise it, but again, we have the stockpile challenge as to where to put it if we were to do that. Right now, it looks like this is the most likely area, is to bring this up a bit higher.
It seems to me that field 1 and 2 is a larger area. And if you put a foot on the, I can't read what that other area is where you wanna
Open
put it.
play.
The open play area.
Yeah.
It seems like you can put,
Yeah.
2 to
more
1.
material on
Yeah.
1 and 2.
You can, yeah.
Equal
yeah,
it, keep
yeah.
it equal.
Yeah.
Try to make
In
it
terms of
level.
height, Pete, I think
It's
we
a
can only
transition
get,
problem, yeah.
you know, a few inches, maybe 6 inches, before we start running into problems with grading.
Well, I
But
mean-
even 6 inches over this big an area is
That's
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
So it may be some combination of the two, you're right. You know, we may be able to get 1,000 yards here in the 6 inches, and we may be able to get the other 2,000 over here, or something like that. And maybe a little bit more here, and make the sides steeper and.
Well, also, if you can get the
Um,
pile down, then you
yeah.
might be able to stockpile it, you know,
Mhm.
where the parking lot is, or right next to that or something for a
Mhm.
while, and then
How
move
mu-
over on the new field.
Mhm.
What's the finished grade from the sidewalk to the ball field now? Is it,
Right here?
yes?
Right here, it's handicap accessible, so it's pretty flat, you know, maybe 1%.
So could you keep that area so they can, or,
See, with fields, you see how these lines are sort of symmetrical? You kind of have to respect that and bring it up
How
equally.
about,
So, you know, you have to take it up on the edges. And, you know, maybe you can crown it a little bit more, I'm not sure about that, but, so there's not a whole lot of movement here. But a few inches, like you say, over a big area, does help. Sometimes, you know, the contractor will tell us too, well, that might be more labor than it's worth, you know, too, for him to spread just a few inches, as opposed to spreading a foot or two, you know. The labor cost might be
I
disproportionate.
would think that you'd
So,
probably be able to raise
but-
it at least 6 inches. I mean, I don't think 6 inches is gonna make a difference around the
Yeah,
edges, but.
yeah.
you
how
can
many
take a
square
look at
feet
that.
is field 1 and 2?
You know, this is like a 250-foot base path, so, you know,
Is there-
roughly 250 by 500. What's that math? That's, got that, Chuck?
The good news is that the geotechnical engineers looked at it, and underneath the fields requires a certain amount of porosity to the material. And he's already looked at it and indicated if they screen out some of the heavier stuff out of it,
Okay.
it could work under those fields, which is the good news.
Right.
Because it would have completely discounted it if they found that there was too many fines and it was too cohesive. We would have lost
Yeah.
that as an option. So at least we have it as an
And
option.
remember, yes, some of the material it does have organics in it,
Is there a way
and
to
it's
use
topsoil.
one of the parking lots, the new parking lots, for a stockpile?
They're working real hard to try and get that paved in the next month.
Yeah, so pave it and then stockpile it?
That
how
would
long?
work, yeah. To get it out of there later, they'd be breaking up more than likely have a problem with their
Yeah.
sub-base. They're already putting the binder down, and to start running some of that real heavy equipment over it, that wouldn't work, yeah.
Can
But
you
we'll
lose a
be
yard of it
putting out-
behind the building, the new building?
We've looked, that's
Uh,
one of
we've
that's one of
filled
the,
up- we
before
filled
we,
back there.
before we build that mound out there, we looked at every
the
area of
photograph
that
on
building. We've got all little areas.
already got
where
a
we've
wall
actually
there, and we
included more
filled-
information.
A lot back there.
There was a lot
behind
of
the
stuff that
building.
was put in various locations where it ended up being under landscaping, close to some of the areas, as opposed to ordinary fill, so.
So
Every,
you're putting a plan together, is that what?
The plan
what's
is-
We're
going
gonna
on?
work with the contractor,
yeah.
you know, like any of these change orders, obviously, we gotta work with the contractor and both, you know, to work out the pricing, but also to work out the sort of strategy too.
Right.
And it's always a little bit of a challenge because we don't like to dictate means and methods. You know, that's really the contractor's responsibilities, but on the same time, you know, if we, especially someone like Pat, his background, knows of a way that's practical and cheaper,
Yeah.
you sort of wanna
Yeah.
get them
Get
to
me into
consider
that.
it at least.
Right,
And,
right.
So we've called upon
so-
everybody involved, from the subcontractor to the general, everybody else, to look at it and find out how we can approach this, and obviously do it as economical a fashion as possible.
And there's none of it that can be put back in as fill for the septic,
No, that
right?
Title V
Not
doesn't
back in,
allow it.
not into the septic area.
Okay,
You would, you
Yeah.
know, this material, this sand, this Title V sand is coming from Hudson right now.
all right.
There's another location down at the Cape, I mean, it's very
Yeah,
fussy
yeah.
material that you're bringing in.
Okay, so
All right.
is this gonna hold us up in any way?
I think
or-
that's the other
and
leg of
then-
this. Clearly, there's more work involved, and I think
Yeah.
the best we can hope for is that we're gonna be able to get this thing done and get some hydro seeding done by the end of October.
Yeah, it's not holding him
Yeah.
up, but just the fact that there was more work, it's taken a little longer
And the
to build.
sequence of operation is you've got to go through the North Fields to get to the septic area.
Right.
because you're certainly not gonna travel around the building with all that heavy equipment, you don't wanna do that. So you're traveling across the fields to get to the septic, so it's holding up the north fields until you get that under control. So clearly, the goal would be right now to try and get something hydro-seeded by the end of October.
Okay, so what's your estimated time frame as far as having a plan together to be able to come back to us on this, on the septic?
Well, I would ask Kyle, because Steve is working, he's trying to obviously meet with Board of Health tomorrow to confirm the bottom. Once we do that, assuming we're okay, then we'll get a topo tomorrow. We'll be able to get a better handle on the quantities. We'll have a better chance to start looking at where materials can be brought in from, even though they're bringing materials in now. So again, like I said, and then we'll start the discussions with the contractor, and obviously, we're gonna be in two different spectrums, and we'll start trying to close the gap in the negotiations
Yeah,
with them.
I think we'll have some options within, you know, a matter of days. And then it'll take some negotiation with the contractor, that might stretch to, you know, a week or two beyond that, to come to some resolution. But in the meantime, they've got work to do. That's what I mean, it's not
Right.
slowing them down. They know they gotta fill the hole, they can start building the septic system,
I mean, we don't have a choice, they have to start
so,
Yeah.
doing
right,
all that
right.
stuff,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Are we
Alright,
gonna have to
so
meet again to
that's-
make a
yeah.
decision on this?
Possible, yeah, it's
Our
possible.
next
We
meeting-
may.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
next meeting is October 14th, so
Right.
if we do, then you guys just
We
need
need
to
something
let
in
us
the middle?
know.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
sooner than- Well, I
Absolutely.
think we
Plenty
even need one
time.
for something
Yeah.
else later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so
Yeah.
you'll let us know on that.
Yeah.
How much is this gonna cost? Any
That's what
idea?
we don't know.
We have
They
no
don't
idea
know.
at this point, yeah.
They don't know yet.
Yeah.
Not even a ballpark?
I wouldn't put it out there right now, because I'd be concerned about putting something out that I could be double or I could be half, you know, so I think you ought to give us a chance to get a better handle on where we're gonna be.
But do you feel that we have enough in our contingency to cover it?
I think we do, yeah, I think we do, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we will wait to hear from you
Yep.
on that. All right, so actually, I'm gonna backtrack. For a lead update, did we have anything new?
Basically, that's on track. We're doing a good job, the contractor's doing a good job feeding us information, staying current with the submittals there. The next milestone really doesn't happen until the job's complete, and we've got all the paperwork in, and even, it's actually even beyond substantial completion. Some of the things, the commissioning report and so forth, that has to be part of it, but things are on track, and we've gotten some feedback already on the points that we submitted on during the construction, or the design phase. And we know we have to keep pushing on, you know, the other ones that we're attempting for the construction phase as well, so we're staying on top of that.
Okay. And then there's anything new on niche scope of services this time?
What that's on there, as you can imagine, with the construction of the septic field and the requirements of Title V, that the design engineer has to witness the bottom, you know, excavation. Nitch has had to put in a few more hours. He's made basically daily visits for the last almost week. And so we're accumulating that, those hours, and we'll get a proposal, professional service supplement to you for their additional time there.
Will it change the, will you have to come up with a new set of runoff calculations if we're talking about different elevations in different places? Or?
We'll have to keep that in mind, George. I don't know that, you know, the direction of flow will change in any way, you know, in this regrading, it's all intended to stay flowing the same way, so I'll bring that up. I don't think it's an issue, though.
Okay. All right, and I think that's it. And then, so how are all the north fields? Are they pretty much going according to plan, and then we're just waiting
Yeah,
for the
they're
clean
ready to
fill on
go.
top,
Yeah.
and then we're ready to go, and
Yeah,
then you can hide
yeah.
to see it, assuming, once we work out the whole subject thing. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Pembroke meeting.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Pat, how are we doing on the billing and the cash flow? Because we had to pass $350,000 worth of bans to cover the cash flow.
Yeah,
And
Chuck has been,
we had a $3 million gap from what MSBA owed us. We did get $2 million in last week, so
Yeah.
that was good. So
Yeah.
that was a plus. But I mean, are we good July, August?
yeah, again, if you look at the cash flow that Chuck attached here, and I'll let Chuck answer any questions,
You're talking from
he's included the cash flow
Getting reimbursed by
in here up through December.
Yep.
And again, like I said, this is a kind of an aggressive cash flow. It anticipates everything's done by the end of December for the most part, you know?
I think he's,
So-
he's talking
I was
about the
talking about
MSBA
MSBA
reimbursement to the town.
Reimbursements, we were owed 3 million and we got 2 ins.
That's right, yeah,
Last
yeah,
week,
yeah.
but we had to float some bands
Chance to get it, yeah.
to cover cash flow for the town.
Chuck, any,
So,
any
when I was
idea why
talking to
that-
Mike about it, he
Yeah.
said that we've got some gaps between, where our billing is going and what our paperwork submittal's coming from you guys to MSBA, so we need to just make sure that we're.
Yeah, no,
we're staying on
I'm
top
not
of
aware.
that.
Chuck, are you aware of any issues?
I wasn't aware.
Yeah, because again, like I said, once the bill gets, you know, we,
Talk to Mike tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
we-
he's out until Thursday,
Okay.
he's at a conference, but.
as soon as the bills come in, they're all, Chuck does a
Talk
whole
to Mary?
list.
I talked to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I talked to her about
Yeah.
it, because there was definitely a big gap, so we had to fill it
I wasn't
temporarily
aware
with some
of that.
bands.
I'll talk to him.
And
Yeah,
we
we've
obviously wanna
indicated,
avoid
we've
that.
indicated right along that if there's any issues at any point, rather than get, you know, paralyzed by something,
Yeah.
let us know. Man, we're right here every week. Chuck is here. We're here twice a week, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
We'll go by and clear up any issue there is.
Yeah, just stay close to Mary on it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
You know, fortunately, the money's cheap, but, you know,
Yeah,
still,
I understand.
you know,
I understand.
it's still,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still, you know, 0.5% of interest.
Yeah, I know Chuck has reached
350,000.
out many times, you know, we're up here, you know, you need anything, can we come by and clear up an issue or something, you know, so, yeah, the bills are going right in, they're coded, you go in there, the paperwork gets done, we sign it all, and then ship it off to Boston.
All right, if you guys could just connect with Mary
Yeah.
and
I will.
stay real
Okay.
close on that, because there was an issue.
I will.
I have a question. Do you think it would be possible for maybe the building committee and the school committee to have another tour of the Pembroke School at some point this fall? You know, when we took that tour this summer, it was
Yeah.
very interesting,
Yeah.
and we put out some pictures, and there were 9,000 views of those pictures. So I think like people in the community would really like to see what's happening.
Yeah, 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 I don't see why not. I mean, again, like I said, we can let you know when we think we're getting to an appropriate time in our opinion, but you can let us know when you wanna go. Whenever you're ready, we can arrange it through the contractor. But we're gonna be getting close to actually having, you know, some of the paintings, some of the ceilings filled in. They're gonna be in another month or so. You're gonna see some of the portions of that C wing are gonna really start taking on a look like, why don't we move in tomorrow, you know? It's gonna start looking like that.
Yeah, we don't wanna get in anybody's way. I mean, there might be some really bad times for us to come, but
Yeah,
would
yeah, yeah. No,
sometime
that's
in
why I say, if you let us know
October be-
roughly what the time frame is, you know, early November, whatever it might be, then we can talk to the contractor
do you
and make
think?
arrangements.
Before
Try
another
something
meeting?
Late October, or
Yeah.
For another meeting?
Yeah.
what?
We could do it before another meeting.
We could?
Maybe the November meeting, which is early in November, you might be
Well,
able to do it.
they'll
at
have
that time.
powerful lights, because it'll be probably
Yeah.
dark by then.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you think sometime before?
I was thinking sooner than later, because it is gonna get dark.
I know.
I think
So
like
maybe
late
before
October.
What about, oh,
Late
okay, I see
October
what you
before we
mean.
switch the time over.
yeah, or maybe even the next meeting,
Yeah, next one.
a month
October
more.
14th.
Yeah.
So maybe Ellie and Michelle, we could think about that and be in touch about a good.
Let us know, if you
time
wanna do that, we'll
schedule.
try and, we'll arrange it through break.
Yeah, but just an hour before the meeting or
Right.
something, is all we
Yeah.
need.
Exactly, yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay,
Thanks.
you're welcome. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, do you wanna go right in, or do you wanna take a break?
Go right
Let's
in.
just keep
Jump
going.
in head first.
Let's just go.
All right. It's getting warmer, right?
Just turn
All
up the
right. Welcome to the school building committee meeting of Tuesday, September 16th, 2014 for the Georgetown Middle High School project. All right, so the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from August 19th, 2014.
heat. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I will abstain because I was not there. Those are approved. Okay, and then for the middle high school, we have 2 invoices, one from municipal and one from DRA that total $136,270. I'd like to make a motion to approve these invoices as stated.
So moved?
Anybody have any questions on these invoices? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Send
Can I
those,
borrow your
please. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Pat, you wanna walk us through the budget?
Yeah, I'll say, yeah, if you look at the report there, just looking at the previous month's activity, we've had, I don't remember offhand if it was done in this period or the previous period, but we had a very good phasing meeting with the school department and Carol and the entire staff there, and walked through areas, and we know we needed to decompress the schedule because we had no shot of getting it done over the course of 2.5 months. And the school has graciously allowed us to start in mid-April in the gymnasium, do the bulk of the work in the summertime, and then we have a portion of the first level that's got some intensive work that can actually stretch out to somewhere around November. So we're working around that phasing plan. So with the cooperation of everybody, we have a plan that we think is sufficiently reasonable to obviously still be economically attractive to contractors. That was discussed at length with the design team. We met on September 4th at DRA with all of the engineers, talking about the phasing and making sure that a lot of these items are straightened out. And we're on course right now to finish off our DRAs in line to finish off the 60% construction documents. I don't know if you recall, but MSBA waived the necessity to do a design development. We did a design development phase so we could keep the job economically on track. We did that, shared the information with you. We are on track. This now is going to be a formal submission to MSBA where they will take it and they will review it all and they'll respond back to us with any comments they have. The design team will continue on working. Once we submit it, we're going to continue on working because we got to work to get a 90% package into MSBA in December. The whole idea is to get this ready for bidding sometime the end of January because we need a contractor on board by the end of March so we can get started on April 15th.
Right, so when are you planning to have the 60% done?
Right now, it's scheduled to go in the third week of October.
Third week, okay.
Yeah. And it's identified on a schedule that's attached to the back here.
Okay.
Additional soil testing has been conducted. Phase 1 environmental investigation occurred. There was some talk about a Phase 2. There was again, preliminary, I guess it was preliminary, decision by the committee not to proceed with a Phase 2. But DRA is going to have to come up with a strategy to get something in those documents. I'll let Kyle address that in his portion of the discussion. Survey was completed. Project team met with the Conservation Commission, and right now there's a request to go out and do another walk around. Hopefully that'll take place in the next month. If there's anything that has to happen in there with regard to Concom, we'd like to have a preliminary information so we can build in some costs into the 60% estimate. Next month, anticipated activities, continue with the detailed design, scope of review with the school, building committee to verify adherence to the schedule, and again, we'll be submitting the end of October into MSBA. A project schedule is one attached, the budget is attached. Other change orders, proposed change orders, there were 2 amendments, PSS 5 and 6 to DRA's contract 4, identified there. I'm sorry, Chuck?
Those were last month.
Those are last month, okay? So those were all acted, there's nothing to be acted on this month? Okay. Cash flows are attached, nothing in the other categories, they involve construction. MBE, WBEs, DRA is conforming to that. Total budget projection, again, there's not a lot of changes other than to obviously take money out of the other category for items that are in the reimbursable category for DRA. You work your way down, revised project funding agreement is there. As a matter of fact, the PFA, the project funding agreement, I checked with Mike, that was returned back on the 10th of September. That means that reimbursements for this part of it can also continue to flow, or start to flow. So the project funding agreement has been signed, has returned to MSBA. Once they get the MSBA and they give you the okay, Chuck can actually load this budget in, and then we'll be applying for reimbursements based on the actual PFA total budget analysis. Nothing special here, everything else is pretty much the same. Flipping over to the cash flow, and again, Stu, we will obviously, Chuck will stay in touch with Mary to make sure once we get everything plugged in.
This was updated.
This was updated? Oh, good, good. All right, so that gives them a good idea, and Chuck will obviously review this with Mike and Mary if necessary. Master schedule, as we just talked about, if you look down 4 or 5 lines up from the bottom, the key is to get started by April. We have the advantage of starting there, we want to take advantage of that ability to get started. And if you work back up, you'll see the 90% set is due on the 8th of January. And then the 60% we had here on the 30th of October, that's been squeezed to the 23rd. I'm talking to
Mine
Courtney.
didn't print on
But, you know, I don't
Yeah,
think
we
we
don't
have,
have that.
I don't think we have the schedule.
Oh, the back page.
Like,
There you go.
Back page is blank.
Well, if in fact it was there,
This is
It
what it
would-
would say?
it would explain, it would tell you
Excellent.
that the 60% is due on the, it says the 30th, it's gonna be the 23rd.
I got it.
The 90 is gonna be on the 8th of January, and the anticipated start date is April the 20th.
It's stuck in the
April 20th?
It happens all the time.
20th or the 15th?
Happens all the time, yeah. So I would say that, you know, the schedule is tight, there's a lot of work for DRA to get done, a lot of work for us to continue to work with them on, so, again, like I said, there'll be a series of meetings, there'll be more dialogue and interaction, and with that, I'll let, if you have any questions for me, I'll answer them. But if not, I'll have Kyle jump into an update on the design.
The, integrating the rooftop units, have you had conversations, you and Chuck and Carl?
When you say integrating the units,
The rooftop units on the,
That they wanna add those roof
Yeah.
units.
you know, that we have to do.
yeah, sure, I mean, right
To
now,
replace some of the existing?
Yeah,
That's-
yeah, but they have to be
Yes.
repiped apparently. It's a
Yeah.
different type of coolant. you
well,
know.
if we go back and understand, we already signed a scope and budget agreement with MSBA.
Right,
The scope and budget fixed the cost and fixed the scope of the job.
okay.
If we were to put these units in as an alternate or something, that will raise a flag, and,
No, they're already putting them in.
We
They're
have to
looking for
put them in.
Okay.
They're looking for coordination.
Right,
Between
right,
the
right.
new
Oh,
units
well,
and the
coordination,
roof.
coordination, just
Right.
coordinating shouldn't be a problem. I
Okay.
thought you were talking about,
Jim,
Getting-
Maybe if we could, and we paid for it, that'd be fine, but if that's not possible, that's okay.
it amends,
Okay.
the.
Even if we
scope.
pay for it.
It amends the scope.
Oh, okay, all
It
right.
amends the scope, so we would, we could basically go in and question it. Chances are they're gonna say
Say
it's,
no.
it's not in the scope that
Okay.
we approved.
All right, but we do have to do it,
Yeah.
and it does have, I mean, they have to come off, and you're gonna have to,
Yeah.
the story is, you're gonna have to take the old ones off anyway to do the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing would be to put
Sure.
the new ones down.
Yeah.
The problem is, there's some piping that has to get done, so how, how and when and how to handle that is what
Yeah.
has to be.
Sure. Well, I think that if, how are you buying those units?
Couldn't tell you, Mike Anderson, I
Yeah.
think, is he, and,
Yeah, but I think it's, the question of the funding is whether or not it's going to come through free cash at town meeting. Right, we don't know.
yeah, we're gonna talk about that on next
That's
Wednesday.
funding. Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna talk about that next Wednesday, but
Town
my
would
sense
buy-
that I have is that, yes, we,
Mike would be
right,
coordinating.
that we would be doing that.
I would say the first step would be to have Mike, at a sidebar to our meeting.
Okay,
We can sit down and talk about exactly what is he gonna do, what's the schedule gonna be, how much coordination do we need?
Right.
And how can we make this work?
yeah.
And if we're doing a little bit of work to accommodate that, we might be able to go back to MSBA and say, look, the town is doing this, they're paying for the whole thing, but it only makes sense to remove these things
Right. I
one
think
time.
Mike brought
That's
this up.
kind of, that's where we were coming from.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Mike,
I think
Mike
if we're
brought this
reasonable
up
in a
last
small
meeting,
Right.
so
Yeah.
we're aware of it.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
all right.
it may be a question of timing too, if the replacement ones, or if the current ones rather, can last you through the year and get replaced, next summer when the work is done everywhere, then,
But, but
maybe able to.
you're back to the old
Right
thing
down.
of, would you have to alter the roof, cut the roof to get the piping in?
We're gonna be making some penetrations anyways. There's certain things, certain parts of the scope that require that
Okay.
already. So we'll have, that covered. It's a matter of coordination, like you say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to me, a bigger
And
item
if-
is gonna be the curbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, what happens to the curbs? Chances are, the curbs for your new unit aren't gonna be fitting on the curbs we have there.
Well,
That I
And
don't
that
know.
becomes,
I-
that becomes
Yeah.
integral,
No,
we
no,
gotta
I
have the
agree.
curbs to
That's
route
right.
that
I
in.
think these
Yeah, no,
condensers
that's a
are like
bigger
on
issue, yeah.
sleepers.
Are these
Pat.
on sleepers?
I
They
think
on
so.
sleeper? Yeah.
I think, you know, they're
I don't
small
know
enough
Well,
anything
we'd have
about
to-
the
that
units.
they're on sleepers, so
We'd have to know
we'll,
what- yeah.
we'll coordinate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
What are the units? Are they DXs or are they,
They're the little
chillers
split
or-
systems, you know, with the condenser and a
So,
Mitsubishi.
so there's no
or-
duct, there's just
That's
pipe
only the
coming through.
condenser?
Oh, that's
It's only-
easy.
it's
That's
only the
easy.
piping
Yeah.
coming through.
If we're just
Yeah.
doing sleepers and bringing
Yeah.
pipe through, and there's no ducts, I mean, that's,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it is just, it's just the coolant pipe.
Yeah,
is what
that's,
I
that's
understood.
Just
pretty
coolant
straightforward.
piping.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's all
Yeah.
we're talking about.
That's what I understood too.
Yeah.
Do we have a guesstimate on what the replacements would cost?
Yeah, that was the originally for the town meeting last year. The whole thing was 200,000. It was
Yeah.
200,000. We've already given them 25, so we're looking at maybe 175,000. And actually, some of that was to hire a crane, right? To lift them up on the roof. you
Right.
know, So you know,
Sure.
maybe there's some
Yeah. so
economies we can
Right.
take care of.
It
there.
ma-
So
Yeah, it
anyway,
makes sense to be, I mean, if there's no ductwork involved, we're not playing
No,
with
there's- I
curbs,
don't
we're just
think so.
talking about piping,
yeah.
Yeah.
may come together, yeah.
Okay, I hope
Yeah.
so. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jim, you guys are meeting next Wednesday?
A week from tomorrow, the 24th.
Just gotta really make sure that you get the equipment here.
Yeah, that's these guys, that's Mike. I'm just worried about
Yeah.
the money and, you know, that it doesn't get,
Right, right.
It's getting
you
in
know,
here on
messed
time.
up somehow.
Right, you're better off having it and sitting on it than,
Well, that's where the delay comes from.
yeah.
Okay. So do you think we're gonna need an additional meeting then after the 14th to look at the 60%, or will you guys have it ready before then?
I
For some
think
reason
we were,
Maybe.
we had
I
talked
think
about
we were
maybe-
timing it so that we could present it at the
14th.
14th.
Yeah, I think that'd work out.
Okay.
I think that will work out.
The
yeah,
schedule I
yeah.
remember seeing, I don't
I
have it
mean, we're
right in front of
submitting
me,
it the
but,
23rd, but I mean, it's gonna be
Yeah.
done in advance, and there's gonna be some touch-ups, so I think there's enough
Yeah.
for the committee to look at and say it looks,
Okay.
looks fine.
Okay, all right, so that'll be then at the next meeting.
right, we were trying to coordinate that with
Okay.
your meetings.
All right, and any other updates on the future PSSs for the design phase?
I think we touched on the previous
The
ones.
that they already did, yeah.
The ones that are, might still be needed are the testing. And, you know, that's something we'll coordinate with municipal on, again, as to how much, if any, you know, testing is needed in this budget. And
Testing for what?
air quality testing.
In the school?
In the school, yeah, yeah. And whether any additional testing is needed now for materials or scope that hasn't been identified. I think we've got the whole thing, but that's one thing I wanted to check with Courtney on.
You think there'd be anything
So-
else? I mean, we got one more walk around with the Concom. I would hope there'd be no other costs associated with that.
Well, yeah, we're hoping too, that
Yeah,
it's
we hope that
pretty
there's nothing
clean.
there,
We're
you know.
outside the buffer, we're not doing any
Yeah.
work in the buffer, we're basically, they call it, we're cleaning out a detention area, we're maintenance work. So the expectation is there'll be no filing there needed with conservation.
So why would we need a testing for the air quality?
For asbestos removal, make sure we've got all the hazardous materials identified before we go to bid,
So then, do you actually do, if you do a test for the air quality before, do you do it after, once it's all been removed and everything, to make sure that?
Oh, yeah,
it's
always.
good? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So you,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, you can't turn an area over until you do the air quality test
Right.
to verify.
good to know.
And the other thing Pat mentioned was about the soils. Since we are gonna be doing some earthwork, we you know, typically would write a specification, the so-called front-end general conditions that tells the contractor all the sort of general requirements, including responsibilities for safety. And here we, you know, need to say something about the soil, and that they have to handle it in a safe manner and be OSHA approved. But, you know, we'd suggest, and I could talk with Mike directly if you want, Mike Farrell, but you have to think about the town's exposure here too, that, you know, like, the guys out at Pembroke are essentially protecting the town's interest by doing the dust control to prevent, you know, future issues. So you might want to consider that in terms of hiring Green Seal to write a little more specific kind of health and safety plan that can go into the front end of the specs. So, right now, you know, if you want us to proceed as is, we could do that, as I said, but it would be, you know, us as architects sort of putting in almost a standard kind of safety. The safety is the responsibility of the contractor, but still, if we have, you know, information about the site, we need to share it with them, that sort of thing. So, you know, we would do that, but,
We're
so,
replacing all the soil in place, right, back.
right, right.
Right, but he's also
it being
talking
paved
about
over?
something
I know.
for the workers.
Yeah,
Virtually all of it,
For the
yeah.
Yeah, what he's
workers.
talking about is the
So-
soil that comes out when you have to stockpile it for a while and how you handle it.
Yeah, yeah, the dust control again of
Right,
that,
Right,
yeah,
so that's for the town and for the workers. It's
Right.
for everybody.
right.
It's not just, you know.
I would think
So-
it wouldn't be nearly as involved as it was
Oh, it
before.
wasn't. Jim Luker of Green Seal had a proposal,
It'd
I
be-
think it was $3,500 to
Be similar
modify
to what you have in, I
the one
assume
he
your-
already has done
your
for
field,
Pembroke.
your field operation,
So-
you know, your football field operation?
Okay.
Because you have, I
But
think
is
you
he
have
talking
something.
about bringing
But,
in
yeah, but that's,
wheel washing and
No,
misters?
no, 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 no.
No, no, no.
It would be his requirements, as I understand it, talking to Jim, would be very similar to what they're requiring of your contractor who's doing your field.
So it doesn't have to do with the
Because they have-
monitoring
yeah.
during construction, it has to do with just,
The-
Plan, the writing of the
just
plan.
writing
Yeah.
the plan to
The
tell the
safety plan.
contractor
How
what
they-
to
To
do.
give
Yeah.
to the contractors so
Right.
he can educate
Right,
his
and kind of
employees.
pass on the
Yeah.
responsibility to the
Right,
contractor,
right.
and
Right.
therefore the liability.
Yeah.
Right.
but the thing I'm concerned about is, and you can tell me that I'm off track here right away, but is I wouldn't wanna have a spec that's gonna make the requirements so onerous,
I
in a
understand. yeah,
ridiculous
yeah.
sense,
Sure.
of
Right,
going
right.
overboard
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So, cause we don't need to.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's
So,
somewhat
as long as
akin
that's
to a
good.
more common issue is like lead paint. When we, you know, say we were demolishing or doing some work in here, and we knew there was lead paint on the door frame, we would alert the contractors that there's lead paint, and they have to deal with it in an OSHA-approved manner. Contractors are pretty familiar with that nowadays. You know, any but the most amateur would not shy away from that, but they know they have to deal with it, and it passes on the responsibility. If a worker should claim in the middle of construction, ooh, I think I just inhaled some lead paint, we'd say, well, the general contractor knew about that and should have taken
So
precautions.
he's thinking that it's like $3,500 to write the spec?
Right, the health and safety plan.
Yeah.
So,
That's
Well,
probably a
I
good
think
idea.
we need
Yeah,
to
I
do
would think
that.
it's a good idea
That's
as
short
well.
money.
I think we
That's
need that
short
too.
It's your benefit, I mean, it gives you that
Oh,
protection, and we give it
absolutely.
over to the contractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's.
okay, we'll get a formal proposal in. I don't have it with me tonight.
All
Okay.
right, so we don't need to.
Okay, so we will put that in the agenda for next time.
Okay. Thank you.
And, green seal. Okay. All right, does anybody else have anything on the middle high school?
Could we just copy the agreement that's being used for the football field?
He's using that information.
Yeah,
He
That's what he's
figured,
gonna do,
yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
In combination
Tailor
with
it.
what he's already done for Pembroke,
Mm.
or what was used in Pembroke, and he can sort of meld the two together and get a health and safety plan for the
So
high
it's-
school.
I think what Pete's
So-
saying is, wouldn't it be the same plan?
Why can't we just
Well-
copy and paste it and put it on the new?
Right.
I don't know
Save
literally what the
$3,500.
differences are, Pete, but that one is, you know, purely an earthwork project. This one's a little different. I don't know what that means, but, you know, I trust him. He's a straight
So the-
shooter and
The
telling
issues
us
with
what was
inside the
needed.
school too, then?
We're doing very little, if anything, that's going to impact
Inside the school, it's your
inside the
hazmat
school.
guy, and inside.
Right,
inside
we have a
there's
different consultant
for the
deal with
inside.
asbestos inside the school, but I'm thinking if we'd ever excavate any holes or in the slab to contact soil inside the school, that may be covered by it slightly, I don't know.
I'd just have him, I think Peter's point is to have him
Yeah.
sharpen his pencil.
Well, yeah, we asked him to do that, and,
Yeah.
and that's why he acknowledged that he was building on what he already had for the football field.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that at the
Okay.
next meeting. Anybody have anything else? No? All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.